Alright, Chapter 12 of Staying Fat for Sarah Burns. Man, Ellerby says, pausing for the cross traffic before taking a right on the red onto Compton Street at the edge of the Edison district. I must be getting kind of faith my dad talks about bringing my holy mobile down here again. He pauses. Let me guess. We're not here bringing the word and light to Dale Thornton. Not with you, Ellerby. You're like a genius or something. So what is it we're bringing? Questions. Make them easy ones, okay? I'd hate to see that guy get pissed. I'll do my best. Ellerby pulls the cruiser up against the cracked and broken sidewalk at the edge of the vacant lot, across the street from Thornton's house, and I gaze across the icy street toward the driveway leading back to Dale's shop. The balance has obviously shifted between Dale and me since junior high, if only because I'm bigger now and not as afraid of my own shadow as I once was. But I'm like Ellerby. Dale Thornton is still not a guy I want on my bedside. He has the same nothing-to-lose look, and I'll never be comfortable around that. But he's the only person to answer these questions. Wait here, I see his car. I should be just a minute. Ellerby leans back into his customized bucket seat as I step out. What if he kills you? If you're sure I'm dead, drive away. The door to Dale's shop stands ajar, and I hear the clanging of metal on metal as I approach. I knock twice before pushing my way in, still unseen by Dale, who appears to be hammering on a stuck bolt. He looks up, then back to what he's doing. When the bolt breaks loose, he straightens up and nods. Fat boy, he says, what's up? Hey, Dale, I say uneasily. Need to ask you some questions. You with the cops? I laugh. They're not that kind of questions. He watches me. So, I say, what do you think? No, I'm just trying not to be pushy. Sorry. So, I say, what do you think? Is that the first question? No, I'm just trying not to be pushy. Dale wipes his hands with the ever-present grease rag and leans against the back of the station wagon. This is about Scarface, right? Yeah. He replaces the grease rag. I promised a long time ago I wouldn't talk about her. I already said too much. I ain't got much, but my word's good. She told me about the stove. You don't need to worry about having spilled the beans on that anymore. Dale stared suspiciously. He obviously had second thoughts about breaking his word. You know, he warned, you do-gooders need to be careful. You think just because you want to help somebody's going to get helped. I'm not asking you to let any more secrets out, Dale. Honest. Sarah Burns told me. I came to ask if she ever said anything about her mother, like where she thought she went, or anything like that. What do you want with her old lady? I say, I'm not sure, but Sarah Burns says her dad is getting crazier and crazier, like when he burned her. She said he thinks he's getting ready to do something bad. Her mother is the only one who could blow the whistle. I thought Scarface wasn't talking. You said she was holed up at the crazy house, keeping her mouth shut. She's still holed up there, but she's talking some, at least to me. She's crafty, that Scarface. Bet there never was nothing wrong with her. Bet she could have talked all along. You don't get ahead of Dale Thornton when it comes to survival. I'll bet you're right. So, what about it? Ever hear her say anything about her mom? Just that she hightailed it after Daddy burned her. Scarface never heard nothing from her again. Said for a while she was scared her old man maybe killed her. Did she say where she might have gone if he didn't kill her? He sits back. Only place like that would have been Reno. Reno, Nevada? They got Reno somewhere else? Not that I know of. Then Reno, Nevada. Jesus, how come everybody says you so smart, fat boy? I had 'em fooled. They don't say that anymore. I ain't surprised. Why Reno? What did Sarah Burns ever say about Reno? Said her mama always wanted to be a singer or a dancer or some shit like these chicks she seen in Reno once, up on the stage at some gambling place. Her mom told her that's what she would have done if she wouldn't have married her old man. Scarface told me once her mom used to talk about it all the time, like it was some kind of possession or something. Obsession? Yeah, that. What does it sound like? I mean, did she really do it? Was it something that she'd really do? What do you mean? Well, was it like me wanting to grow up to be a stand-up comic, or was it something she'd really do? Dale shakes his head. How the hell would I know? I never met her mom. She only talked about her once or twice. I don't know why she'd want to be around her old lady anyway. Hell, she up and left, right? Scarface would be better off like me. No mom at all. I'd rather have nobody than somebody who'd do me like that. Dale has a point. Look, he says, walking back toward the workbench. I'm done with this here courtroom drama. Come over here and hold this piece so I can rethread it. Motz flagged me down in the hall between fourth period and lunch today, and I swear it felt just like junior high, only this time I was innocent. Mr. Calhoun, could I talk to you for a minute? What am I going to say? No. I crammed my books into my locker and walked over to him. I've grown, but he's still a monster. Yes, sir. Thought we might have lunch, he said, down in my office. What'd I do? He smiled. Nothing. I want to talk something over with you. I glanced over at Jody standing next to her locker. I was going to eat with... Come on, lover boy. One lunch away from her won't hurt you. This was unwinnable. Okay. I'll meet you there. I walked over to Jody. Gonna have to stand you up. Lunching with the king, she'd overheard. Yeah. Guess I better keep my food in my baggies until right before I eat. Less chance of contamination. I'll be outside at the table, she said, if you get finished early. Come on out. Eric, Motz said to me in his doorway. Just like old times. Yeah, well, except I'm not trying to strong-arm my way into the publishing business. That's good. It was a pretty good paper, I said, smiling. A little misdirected, maybe, but hey, the grammar was good, the writing concise. He wasn't amused. We got away with that paper a lot longer than he would have liked. I was surprised not to feel intimidated as badly as I used to. Well, we're not here to talk about misguided journalism, he said, directing me toward a chair across from his desk. His lunch was spread neatly before him like a still life, and I opened my paper bag, extracting a sandwich. How's school going for you this year? Look at my files, I thought. I said, okay. Good. Your grades going to get you into a good college? I said I could go pretty much any place I wanted. Good, he said again. Secondary education is important. Got to have a good education to get a good job. I started to tell him it was hard to argue with that, but he went right on. Tell me about your contemporary American thought class. Be patient, and the rat will always come out of his hole. Good class, I said. What do you want to know about it? What do you discuss in there? Current problems, I said. The students set up the curriculum at the beginning of the semester, and we divide it up so everyone's issue gets covered. What kind of issues? All kinds? Maude smiled. Are you evading my questions, Eric? What do you mean? Just that. I ask what you talk about in Mrs. Lemry's class, and you beat around the bush. Why didn't you ask Ms. Lemry? Because I'm asking you. This was starting to feel bad. I mean, Motz invites me to lunch and makes me bring my own, but who's complaining? To ask me what's going on in a class when all he has to do is ask the teacher? Come on, folks. Tell you what, Mr. Motz, you tell me what you want to know and why you want to know it, and if I can help you out, I will. You haven't changed much, have you, Eric? Probably not much. I looked down at myself. Lost a little weight, but I still don't like to be pushed around. And I still don't like to be tricked. How are you being tricked? I would be tricked by answering questions about Ms. Lemry's class when you could just ask her. You're not telling me what this is about. Motz rocked in his chair, staring at me, his index finger tapping his lips lightly. Very well, he said finally. Frankly, I've been a bit distressed by what I've heard about that class, and about you and your friend Steve Ellerby. Wait long enough. What have you heard? Motz was quiet again, seemingly considering how much he wanted me to know. Finally, he put up his hands. That some important Christian values are being trashed, for one, but that's a subject for Mrs. Lemry and me. Also, that you and your friend Ellerby seem to be mounting a vicious campaign to humiliate Mark Britton. Ah, Britton. It was my turn to sit staring. What do you say about that? I was quiet a second longer. Well, to tell you the truth, I haven't spent a lot of time or brain power on humiliating Mark Britton. He does that pretty well himself. I don't mind telling you, I don't like him. And if he weren't part of the swim team, I wouldn't give him the time of the day. What about his girlfriend? Jody? Motz nodded. Mark tells me you've been slandering him to her. First, she's not his girlfriend, and second, I have better things to do than slander Mark Britton. Like I said, why mess with what's already working? Motz sat forward, and memories of junior high flooded back to me. I fought hard to remember that things were different now. I had done nothing wrong. I don't mind telling you, Mr. Calhoun, that I believe Mark Britton is a special kind of kid. His moral values are flawless, and he doesn't bow to the temptations most kids bow to, you included. Now, I talked with his mother this morning, and she's very worried. She believes he's under a lot of stress and says he seems particularly depressed. I can't order you to leave him alone, or I would. Instead, I'm asking you to give him a little slack. I gazed around the office at the impeccable organization. Every book in place, the top of his desk clean and shiny enough to skate on. My eyes landed on a large crucifix in the middle of his bookcase. The design at the center was identical to the one in the center of the decal in Britton's rear window. Do you go to the same church as Mark? What difference does that make? Something about this conversation just made me wonder, that's all. Well, it's none of your concern, but I see no problem in telling you that I do. I sat back, breathing out. What does that have to do with anything? He asked. Nothing, really. I just wondered. Can I go now? What about my request? About Mark? I'll give Mark so much space he won't even know I'm on the same planet. What about his girlfriend? If he gets one, I promise I won't even talk to her. Blood flooded Motz's face, but he retained control. I meant Jody Mueller. I'll ask her to give him some space, too. Motz pointed his finger at me, his carotid artery swelling like a fire hose. You're skating on thin ice, young man. What is it you want me to do about Jody Mueller, Mr. Motz? If you had an ounce of compassion, you'd stop seeing her, at least until things have stabilized. You mean until Mark Britton is stabilized? My organ donor card will expire before Mark Britton is stabilized. The guy needs help. I stood. I'll leave Mark alone, I said, but I'm not going to stop seeing Jody Mueller. I started for the door. You know, Motz said, I've always seen you as a bit misguided, Eric. That's no secret, but I've never seen you as cruel, not before today. I was this close to telling him about his favorite choir boy's response to Jody's pregnancy, but that would have been a bad move for Jody. So I said, I don't get it, sir. How come Jody's feelings don't carry any weight here? Do you think she doesn't have a right to say who she goes out with? I think her head is turned because you're a clever boy, Motz said evenly. That's what I think. And I think the only reason you're going out with her is because she used to go with Mark Britton. And I think that's cruel. He's an amazing man, that Mr. Motz. In the pool this afternoon, I didn't taunt Britton. Didn't set up any games with Ellerby to mess with his head. I just kicked his ass. Every time I thought about him crying to Motz, I just turned up the heat. If he keeps messing with me, I could turn out to be a pretty good swimmer by the time regionals rolls around. I hung around a bit after the rest of the team hit the showers. What do you need, Moby? Lemry asked as I followed her into her office just off the pool deck. I told her I thought she should watch out. For what? For Mr. Motz. He was asking me all kinds of questions about cat class today, like he was trying to get something on you. She looked at me strangely. Like what? I said I didn't know, but that's how it felt. Then I told her about Motz's and my conversation concerning Britain. She listened carefully, looking a bit puzzled and annoyed. Tell you what, she said when I finished. You go on doing what you're doing and don't worry about it. I do agree with Mr. Motz on one thing. It would be good for you guys to give Mark a little room. He doesn't have much of a sense of humor, and that makes things doubly tough on him. Breakups are hard under any circumstances. Everybody hurts, Moby. Remember that. I said I had decided to leave him alone. You might see if the very Reverend Mr. Ellerby would join you in that decision. I said I would. Then, I might have some information about Sarah Burns' mother. Really? What kind of information? Well, I talked to an old friend of hers who said her mom used to talk about going to Reno to be a card dealer and maybe learn to dance. You know, like in those shows they have. How reliable is that? I told her about Dale and how he and Sarah Burns became friends. Sounds like you believe him. He's not the kind of guy with a reason to lie, I said. He doesn't have much to lose. Lemery put her fingers to the bridge of her nose. That would have been at least 14 years ago. I nodded. We'd be lucky to find her. That's a long time to hold a job as a dealer. Or as a dancer. I shrugged. All I know is what Dale said. Do you think Sarah Burns would talk to me? She asked. If I went to the hospital with you, do you think she'd trust me? Boy, who knew? Sarah Burns is full of surprises. I can never tell when she's going to go along with something and when she's going to take my head off. I said that. Well, find out. I said I'd try, then Lemery told me to have a seat. I dropped my towel onto the cushion to keep the chair from getting wet and planted myself. Listen, Moby, Sarah Burns has had a big impact on you, and her name comes up so often lately that I feel like I know her. Sometimes the hardest thing about being a school teacher is having to leave tough cases behind, so you can cater to the masses. Most good teachers hate that. This girl seems to have worked her way into the part of me that doesn't let go. I really do want to help, and it seems as if the only help is to get her mom back here to tell the true facts. But I'm going to have to follow your lead. She trusts you if she trusts anybody. You're going to have to make decisions about when to tell her what. I'm willing to put some energy and even some money into helping, but she has to want that for it to make a difference. It might be that we should find her mother first before we say anything, to see if she will have anything to do with her daughter. I don't know. I thought of all Sarah Burns's in my time together, tried to picture her reactions. I know one thing, I said, finally. Sarah Burns hates not knowing worse than anything. She has to okay anything we do, and the first thing I'll have to do is make it okay that I've told you everything. Get to it. You son of a bitch, Sarah Burns spits through gritted teeth. She's a teacher, you dickhead. She has to tell Child Protection Services, at least. She said she wouldn't do that, I said. And I believe her. She's a teacher, Sarah Burns says again. There's a fine if you don't tell. Jail, you asshole. I know, Lemery wouldn't lie. Look, I want to bring her here. We can go into the courtyard, and you can see for yourself. Sarah Burns looks at me through those slits in her scarred face as if she's going to clean my clock. On the spot. I thought I could trust you, she spits. Shit, Eric, you of all people. She turns to walk away, but I grab her arm. She pulls away, but I don't let go. Look, you're starting to piss me off. You tell me all this shit and then expect me to stand by and let whatever happens happens? Well, bullshit. Ellerby was right. Once I know something, I can't unknow it or pretend it isn't so. I'm responsible for anything I know. I was careful who I told. Lemery is safe. She is. And there are no other good choices. Shit, all you do is present me with impossibilities. You can't stay here forever, and you can't go home. Anything else I come up with won't work for some reason you think of. She jerks hard from my grasp. What do you know? She screams, and the attendants look up. What the hell do you know? You went off and got yourself okay. Lemmy's a big deal hero to you because she's your goddamn swim coach. She's the one that helped you be okay. Well, look at me, Eric. Look at me. I'm never going to be okay. Never. I could back down. Would have a couple months ago. But I've seen Sarah Burns' dad for what he is now. And I've seen what that might do to her. And I'm simply not willing to let it be anymore. I'm just not. If you just wait around and let things happen, then they'll happen. And likely as not, you'll eat shit. No, Sarah Burns, you're wrong. You're just never going to be pretty. That part's right, but that's old news, since right after the day your dad burned you. But you are going to be okay. God damn it, you are. You were right. Being fat was a choice even though I didn't know it at the time. But when I did know it, I was still willing to stay that way so you wouldn't think I would get all svelte and leave. That's how much our friendship meant. I hated being fat, but it was worth it not to lose you. And that has to make you something, at least to me. I stopped for a breath and realized tears are streaming down both our faces. I grab her and hold her. And though she doesn't grab me back, once again, she doesn't push away. Home, my room, my bed, Simon and Garfunkel on my CD player, barely audible over the wind whistling through the trees and the hard flecks of snow snapping against the glass. So these are the best years of my life. I'm scared. I promised Sarah Burns I'd help. Promised Lemery would, too. I don't even know what help is. I love her, but sometimes I wish I never knew her. That doesn't make me too good a friend. But when I think of just training hard to make it to state, and going out with Jody, and studying the nature of the cosmos with Ellaby over a 6-pack of burgers, well, that's what I long for right now. I just want it to be simple, but it won't be. Analysis. There is a saying, and I'm sure you've heard it, and it is stuck or caught between a rock and a hard place. And that saying essentially means that you are stuck between a bad option and another bad option. And that's where Eric finds himself right now. And these bad options just seem to pile up. This chapter was more fuel to the fire. We just had Mr. Motz reinsert himself into all of the action. And boy, he sure sounds like a cheerleader for Mark Britton. And they talk about Jody like a possession, a prize that Eric stole and he should give back. And it sounds like they've got some information about where Sarah Burns, his mother, could be in Reno, but that was 14 years ago, and so that doesn't sound very good. And she's mad because Eric is, of course, sharing this information. This is a rock and a hard place. If he didn't tell anybody, well, what could have happened? If he does tell anybody, what could happen? Sarah Burns could leave. There's no good solution. And it's kind of the same thing with Britton. Leave him alone. Okay, yeah, that's just putting up with his garbage. Mess with him, that's making more garbage, and getting Motz involved. There's no way for him to just settle things down. And we have to think about chapter 13 kind of the same way. What more could possibly happen? It feels like things are starting to get out of control. But I don't know about you, but I don't see how they can get back under control. So quite the mystery, quite the plot line, and we'll see what happens in chapter 13.